Happy Tuesday, diary listeners. So cool. And Happy New Year. And I don't know if we're still saying that, but I am. I'm excited about this new year. 2024 is going to be miraculous. And with it, I get to give you all Nick Baxter. This is so cool. And we're dubbing this diary entry of his D.I.Y. Punk Rock Vibes. So listen in and find out why. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories began.
Wonderful. All right, diary listeners, this is an awesome day. I'm here with Nick Baxter of Art Realm Tattoo in Austin, Texas. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Dude, thanks for coming. I mean, it's kind of I have to admit something right off the top. For a long time in my career, because my beginning kind of overlapped with, you as a thing, because you've been doing this a lot longer than me. I think you have about 10 years on me in the profession. So when I first started, I was told that I should give a shit about knowing you. And I can honestly say that in the beginning I didn't. I was just
Okay.
well, and I think it has led to a lot of cool moments with you that had I given a shit about it wouldn't have probably happened.
Yeah, it just would have been not it just would have been a different vibe. Not as
Yeah.
good. There's too much pretense in that.
Yeah, I do care now, because now I will say that after experiencing you for many years, like I first, realized you were an entity that people cared about in 2011. After watching you over that time, I've grown quite a bit of respect for just the person you are. Like, you are very dedicated to the things that you do. And I've seen a consistency of your person, your character, your passion over time. And one thing that I really love about you is that you love to teach and share information. And so that makes me want to know more. So
Yeah.
now I care.
Well, thank you. Appreciate
Yeah, man.
it.
Well, and I know a lot of other people do too. So this is a really cool time with you. Um, so I guess I'll start out. You can correct me if I'm wrong. There's a lot of information out there already, but you've been tattooing now for about like 25 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, yep. I'm in year 25, about to hit year 26. So it's been a minute.
Dude, that's awesome. So, I know you're also a student of the arts as well. Can you talk about a little bit of what life was like before tattooing and kind of what led you in?
Yeah, sure. My parents, as a child, my parents always encouraged art and creativity on myself and my sister. And my mom would sign us up for like parks and recreation, like pottery classes and stuff for little kids. So those were always great experiences, like very positive memories for me, and that always encouraged me towards creativity, working with my hands, making things. Um, so by the time I got to like junior high and high school, I was obsessed with drawing and was trying to learn painting, and considered myself a creative, artistic person that was sort of like forming into my identity, I guess, as a person. And because it was always encouraged. And so that was kind of the backdrop before getting obsessed with tattoos in my teen years. Was I was just already obsessed with art and wanted to figure out a way to be an artist, like as an adult, as a profession.
Very cool. We had a
And
very
then
similar background.
yeah, no, and then from high school, I went straight to art college, and so I had done a few semesters there, learning like classical fundamentals of art and design for like a year and a half before I finally got an apprenticeship. So that completes the whole backstory.
What were you pursuing a particular type of art in college, or was it just a general investment in like art classes?
I was a graphic design major, but quickly learned how obsessed I was going to be with painting. So had I stuck to art college and not dropped out after 3 semesters, I probably would have changed my major to painting, because when I started to take those introduction classes as a freshman to oil painting and like classical realism, I just really took to it. It just like spoke to me, and I was like excelling at it like more than a freshman would be, you know? So, um, yeah, I just learned that that was like more of a passion than I guess like graphic design, although I still love design, but yeah, the painting is what I guess what spoke to me on a deeper level.
Do you think, because I went to art school too. I dropped out. I,
Mhm.
didn't finish. But for me, the allure of tattooing, even above what I was pursuing, which was illustration, was that I I I could individually, attack people's concepts, and the freedom of conceptual exploration was there with that kind of pursuit. Whereas if I had worked in graphic design or any kind of thing where I might, I don't want to say it like deduce to, but having to work for a corporation or some company where I feel like my work would have been stripped down and made kitsch, and I really wasn't liking that framework as I was going more and more into like, learning the professionalism of the job. I was like, this is not artful.
Yeah, the expression is lacking, you
Hmm.
know. It's more utility. It needs to serve an economic purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it's really, um, it's to serve an economic purpose, but it's also like, um, doesn't explore the vastness of the human emotional spectrum of what we are capable of and what really like speaks to us. And I think that that's what it always drew me to art was this emotional space where I could go to and kind of heal and, for myself, really explore ideas that were deep and meaningful, and kind of come out on the other side a better person, having like, kind of delved into those places. And it's funny to me when I meet people who are like, I don't really consider myself an artist. And I'm like, oh, you're a creative. You probably don't see yourself that way, but I'm sure
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah, it's a mentality as well as your hands actually making something.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, and it's so funny because my mom, I think we're the same age, which is weird because you have like a continual baby face.
Man, I'm old on the inside.
Same. I mean, the pain that I feel is acute and daily. But I think we're like, if I can say it, I'm 42. Are we the same age?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so very similar time frames of like growing up. I feel like maybe our parents were hip to the same kind of vibe of like not wanting the shackles of their experience kind of put on us, and kind of encouraging that very creative, vibe. My mom was very big about that. She was very creative growing up, and
Mhm.
was told that, it would be hard for her to make money at it. And so when it came to
Yeah.
me, she was like, I'm not going to perpetuate that for you.
Oh,
So,
I mean, my parents definitely tried to perpetuate that for me,
oh
but
yeah.
yeah, I rebelled and it just made me double down.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was weird. Like they always encouraged it, but then by the time I was like later on in high school, it was like not encouraged because it was like leading me down an alternative lifestyle path and wouldn't be a serious career and this and that. So it was more just like, you should join the army, get some discipline. And I was like, hell no. You know, you made me like how I am. So
Oh,
here I
that
am.
that is similar because I will say that my parents, when it finally turned to tattooing, um, were kind of, I think it was more they were afraid, honestly. I think it
Yeah.
was that's not a prescript that they could track and they could see and they could
Yep.
predict. And so that that prediction was lost once I finally went after art in a very, I think, the way a real artist does, which is very grassroots, very risking,
All
getting,
in.
yeah, failure is really big in it.
Yeah.
So you were a couple years into college, you said, before you got your apprenticeship.
Yep.
What did that look like? Were you offered one or did you go in pursuit of it?
I had been pursuing an apprenticeship since high school, since I was like a junior, I think. And I guess I was too young for the people I approached to take me seriously, even though I was the most serious person they probably ever talked to, that they just didn't know it because it was masked behind, a high school baby face and a high school aged kid, but I was deadly serious about it. So, but like, yeah, so like no one would take me serious. And then finally, I approached this dude in my town who had a shop, um and he ran apprenticeships on a pay method. So it's just like, if you can pay me $3,000, I will give you 6 months of instruction. It was like private one-on-one tutoring. It wasn't a tattoo school, but it was very school like in that approach of like, you pay your tuition, you get these classes from me one-on-one. That's your apprenticeship. So structured, with a time limit. And in the meantime, also being the shop, chore person, of course. So there was that aspect as well, but it was paid and it was structured. And so I in art school, I was already paying. I was paying my own way through art school. I didn't have any family or savings or any help. It was me working a crappy dishwashing job and cleaning houses, um, and applying for federal student aid, which I got a bunch of, because I didn't have
Gotcha.
any family help or support behind me. So so basically I didn't have any money to pay this guy the $3,000. So I had to scrape together, like my friends helped me out. It was really cool, like DIY punk rock vibe of like helping me get this like 3 grand, like selling stuff, like selling old speakers and just like some
That's
kind of
really
hood,
cool.
yeah, some kind of hood shit. But but I was able to scrape together enough money and show the dude how serious I was. And I think I actually didn't have the full amount, but he still let me do it anyway because he saw that I was serious and I was working towards it while also being in art school full time.
Wow.
So
How did
and
you
while also working part time, as a crappy dishwasher and house cleaning person. So
yeah.
yeah, so that's how that happened.
Did you have a portfolio that you showed him? Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, because I was already in art school and I was in like a special arts program in high school that catered to like the creative kids. Um, so yeah, so no, I mean I had a portfolio of like fairly serious work for that age group, Of
Yeah.
course, I would look at it now and not think it's anything, but like for that age group, it was a serious portfolio. And I had applied to all kinds of art colleges with it, so it needed to be kind of serious. And so that was impressive enough for him, I guess. And yeah, so he took me on, and I paid what I could, um, and worked at the shop while
That,
also going to school.
that was the day of slides when you had to like did
Yep,
you have to make slides of your
yep. I had
portfolio?
slides. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
It's intense. Like there's a whole way you photograph your artwork too, like in order to
I
get a good
know.
slide. It's
I
dope.
know.
I didn't think I'd feel this old this quickly. As far as technology.
Yeah.
Um, so you paid, was there any contractual kind of stuff? Did you have to sign anything, or was it just word of mouth promise?
Yeah, I think it was just like a gentleman's agreement. I don't remember any paperwork.
I
Um,
got you.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just like a gentleman's agreement. This is like small town Connecticut, so
Yeah.
like the suburbs of Connecticut. So it was, it was it's a more like low key, like personable vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think whatever feels right. I mean, people ask all the time, like, what's the best thing. But I do think, you were talking a lot about, just recognizing the passion. And like I said at the top, I do think that over time and experiencing you, I have grown to respect your intensity about the things that you care about, and it's very evident. And the I think sometimes today we've kind of lost connection with that like internal gauge of a situation. Like people want all this, all these safety nets for situations that, back in our time, like you said, punk rock, it was more of like, does it feel good? Because if it doesn't feel good, then leave.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
definitely. Things were
And
looser back then, especially in a tattoo world for sure.
yeah. Well, and I do think it helped, maybe, in the ways that freaked out our parents, but it helped inform the art in a lot of ways because, um, there was, we were kind of being, uh, uh, encouraged to listen deep and deeper and like go into those darker places and explore and kind of ferret out what was right for us in a lot of ways. And there was a rebellion. I definitely had that with my family,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that
mine,
was huge.
yeah, no, mine was pretty radical. And it wasn't even involving art. It was radical on a whole other level, but that's another podcast I've already recorded. Um, but yeah, what was the curricula like? Like you said, it was structured and it was over 6 months. Like, what were the things, apart from cleaning the studio, what was some of the things that you had to actually show and master and tackle?
Well, yeah, so well, I guess to back up a tiny bit, my mentor's name was Mark Savakis. He owned
Okay,
Tattoo International in Wallingford, Connecticut.
wonderful.
Um, yeah, he was a small he was a successful like small town, business owner. He studied under, I think, partly Bob Roberts out in California, who was like a big name from an older generation of tattooers. Hopefully some people recognize that name,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so he had this like super like 80s kind of like mentality, like he was like he came up in the 70s and 80s. So the it was a very traditional apprenticeship. To get back to your question, it was based on that just like old school tattooing mentality. And so it was making your own needles, it was scrubbing tubes, it was making your own coil machine. So there were kind of like he would spend time with me like one day a week going through all these topics. Like, one week or 2 weeks was like building my own coil machine from parts, he he got all the parts for me and it was like, all right, we're gonna put this thing together. And then he showed me how to make needles with a little homemade jig. There weren't even like pre-made needle jigs back then.
Oh
Those
wow,
were
yeah.
just starting to hit the market like a few years into, I think, my tattooing. So
Wow.
you were like folding up a little piece of tin foil and kind of like spreading the needles to make your mags with a little piece of tin foil. And then like these jigs started to come out like shortly after. And I was like, oh man, this got so much easier. So yeah, there was needle making, there was flash drawing was one topic. And so I kind of copied did a master copy, so to speak, of I think some it was either Lyle Tuttle or it might have been Hardy, or I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the legends. And I
Mm-hmm.
basically just like copied their design, but colored them in my way and tried to add a little more of that like new school 90s, late 90s flair that was, like that's what I was into back then, was like that first wave of new school tattooing. And then like things were more like bubbly and dimensional and like more like graffiti colored. So I tried to add that into that flash that I did. Yeah, so there was that, and then just like shop chores and like what needs to be done to run a tattoo shop. Um, Running an ultrasonic in an autoclave, that was also like learning how to operate the autoclave properly and all that stuff. And then it was tattooing, fruit, tattooing an orange peel, like an orange. Although I had heard of like getting like a pig's foot or something from a butcher, but we didn't do that. He just had me tattoo an orange, and then I went to skin.
Right on.
So Yeah, it
I
was
love
just kind
the
of to divide into those main topics, really.
I love Orange Tattooing Day. The whole room just smells of citrus. It's so nice.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like natural fragrance.
And just so people know, that is a very uplifting scent, just like as far as emotional kind of thing. It like energizes, and
Yep.
I'm woo woo about smells.
No, it's true though.
Yeah.
It's like a citrus smell is like it's very crisp and it just like I don't know, it just like gets you going.
Yeah, and I would think that that would override or scale above a pig's foot any day. Just tattooing something that could give you that energy and that excitement about it. It's not anywhere near. Neither would be a pig's foot really, because it's dead flesh and it's
Yeah,
different
it's
flesh.
cold and clammy.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Very, very cool. Did anything like really surprise you? Because it's a whole other animal to like go from art to tattooing and all of these things. Like, was anything like really, since you were learning art and painting, going into tattooing, were there things that conflicted or that you felt, like you had a lot of like, whoa, this is different?
Just I mean, there's the human interaction aspect of it, and I've always been like a shy, kind of socially anxious person. I just like feel deep anxiety around like crowds of people and yeah, just very shy in general. Keep to myself mostly, but so just having to open up as a person and deal with just the interpersonal aspects of it, people, that's intimidating. It was back then at least. So that was huge because like when you're painting and you can just be in your own little world
Yeah.
and you can control everything. So um
Did your mentor do anything to like try to, get you out? Or was there any like things that were put before you to kind of test those boundaries for you?
I mean he had me like handle a few clients, just in a really like easy way. But then it was he just like gave me a swift kick to the ass and was like, all right, you're doing your first walk-in tattoo. Strap up, like and I was like, ah,
Yeah.
shit, this is scary as hell. But I mean, it honestly, like, it kind of, I don't, I don't blame him for that approach. It's like you have to either sink or swim at some point. You just have to get over yourself and do it. So
Yeah.
I did this really probably in hindsight poorly done little script writing tattoo.
That was your first.
Yeah, my first real client tattoo. I had done some apprentice tattoos on friends,
Got you. Got
but
you. The
at
ones
one
that
point
helped
it
you.
was what?
The ones that helped you get to the apprenticeship.
Yep.
Yeah.
I owed all of them. So
Yes.
I was
That's
paying back
awesome.
those debts.
Yeah. No, and those friends are, man, they're for life usually.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God. And then when you see the tattoo, it's that whole oh my God, do you want me to fix that? And they're like, no, how dare. Like
Yeah.
this is OGU. Like
Yeah, exactly. It's a piece of history at that point.
yeah, man. Like I kind of like collecting them now. I have only had a couple apprenticeship tries under my like mentoring people. But the first tattoos I really like submitting myself to as a mentor. I think it's I wouldn't want to teach you if I wasn't willing to let you tattoo me. So
Yeah.
were you um were you asked to tattoo yourself at all? Just out of curiosity?
Nope, that was never a thing. So I never tattooed myself until a bunch of years into my career when I was like a good tattooer. So I have a good tattoo from myself.
Fantastic. Same. I was told in the beginning, no, you don't want to do that. That hurts really badly. And I was like, what? I wax myself. It cannot be worse than that. So, but I did wait a long time because it just became apparent to me that I probably wouldn't stop. Like I would use up skin that I might otherwise want to withhold for other people. And I was seeing this huge community of, things opening up in front of me that was really cool. And I was like, well, I could fill up all my skin with my stuff, but that's I want to collect other people. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
reserve it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's very cool. So let's see. Uh the I want you to know, just off the top, that uh I consider a reserved personality to be wise. People
Mhm.
are very precarious, more people, more problems kind of thing. I think that
Yeah.
I tend to go the other direction of just being super loud because I mean, both, it's precarious for me because I'll probably be the first person who's attacked. But at the same time, if it's too quiet, people are like, where's Amy? Where'd she go? And I'm hoping that people will find at least my dead body before my cats eat my eyelids off. So that's kind of the philosophy that I have.
Yeah.
Is like if you be super loud, people are gonna be like, where'd she go? Wait a minute. And then they'll look around. But I do see that having a reserve of person to be wise because you're not just giving your energy out frivolously to people. And I think that demands a lot of respect too. So, I don't know if you know that as a, outside perspective. I
Yeah.
think it's
Thanks.
cool. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. And I also with people like you, it's kind of like um, you earn your place with them. If you get a smile, you get a, just something that opens it feels like it was earned and you did something cool. So I do think that that's really great. And there's very little I mean, you're not playing into all the masquerade and all of the games. So I think that that's really awesome. Um, I enjoy it.
Well, if you're for quieter people, they're usually more observant, right? Because you're either like outputting the energy or you're receiving it as an observer. So it's like one or
Yes,
the other. So if you're quiet, you're receiving and you're observing. So um, you can build up a
absolutely.
lot of knowledge and insight just observing and not having to be the center of it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I played that realm for a long time and I found it very beneficial, especially during early days of like dating. Now, I will say I wasn't um at least that I could tell anybody was interested in that realm, but it was so nice to like watch all of my girlfriends like experience the dating realm and all of the nuances to it and to just sit back and observe and be like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm taking all these notes. This
Yeah.
is great. It helped a lot to be a wallflower in that time. I don't think that it would have benefited me had I been like playing the field when they were. It seemed like it was a lot of mess. Um,
I
so
mean, yeah, at a young age, I'm sure it was a mess because that's just what it is.
yeah, no, it is. And art was always there for me too, of like a creative expression. I went to an art-centered high school as well. So it was very focused within, the professional pursuit and all of that. So it was great. Um, Definitely recommend that in early education, if you have your kid that's focused around a passion or a pursuit, just give it to them because it'll distract them when it's most needed.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, and so you did Flash, you put your own, the 90s were very colorful. So of course you're going to add more of that. Um, what was, I guess, what was the landscape of tattooing? Was this one of few tattoo shops in the area? Like, and I thank you for announcing your mentor. Sometimes I don't push that because I never know if that's a,
Yeah, like it could have been a bad thing, but
yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, no. Mark was super cool to me. He was like, I mean, he was like a typical old school shop owner. Like he could be rigid and then, just like all the stuff that comes with that. But he was super cool to me. So yeah, I definitely wanted to shout him out for sure. And he totally understood like when I had outgrown that shop and needed to go to like a more like custom, like big name shop with like bigger known artists to like continue the next phase of my learning. Like he had taught me all he could, and I needed the next phase. He was sad and like he like didn't want it to happen, but he like begrudgingly, did a very cool thing. Was like, all right, I give you my blessing to leave and go to my competition, basically, which I will forever respect and admire him for that, big boy move,
Yeah.
because he could have been real shitty to me in that moment and tried to hold me down, but he saw the writing on the wall and I just needed the next phase.
Yeah. That's very, very cool. Well, how did you, was there a lot of travel at that point? What was going on at that point? Because I took a hiatus in my time. I started in like 2004 and then I stopped for a while and then came
Mm.
back at like 2009, 10-ish. So there
Okay.
was a huge gap in my knowledge of like what the tattoo industry was like.
It was starting to pop off. I mean, that to me, I mean, probably everyone feels this way about the era they started in, but for me, like that era of tattooing, like the early 2000s, the late 90s into the first decade of the 2000s, like things were popping off. It was like my whole generation of people was starting to get into it, and we were raised in a more like educated environment. We weren't coming to tattooing through some seedy underworld, not to knock on anyone from a prior tattooing generation who did that, but just to say like it was changing and things were coming more from an art school type of
Mhm.
background getting into tattooing. And so um the art was just exploding in those years when I started. So yeah. and
I
and
call it,
but at the same time there weren't 17,000 shops in every town too.
yeah,
So
that's
if
true.
you I really hit tattooing at a very fortunate um good time for what I was doing, because I had a lot of art knowledge and some artistic skill, and could excel quickly at different styles of tattooing that looked impressive in those days compared to what was around. And
Right.
then there wasn't tons of competition, because there were only a few shops. So
Yeah.
it was like the right place, right time for me.
Yeah. I call it the having not really experienced it on the tail end, I kind of did. I took a sip of my tea and that didn't work out as I had planned. Excuse me. Um, I call it the renaissance of tattooing almost. Like it seemed like that was when this fusion of like kind of artistic minds kind of entered in and society was seeing it differently and there was a huge investigation in how to make better machines and expand the color palettes and
Yeah.
how to fuse all those things. I too, I think came in, when I first came in, it was very old school and I was like, this is really weird. And it was in a biker shop in Kentucky. And then when I came back, it was in Maryland and it was a lot more artful and there was Tattoo Society magazine, and there was more publications were coming out, and people were really talking about it in different ways. I learned because I was very ignorant. I was more of the art school kid that knew about impressionists and art history and things like that. I learned that there was such a history of tattooing that I was not privy to that had been going on, but I was very raw in my knowledge there. And for me, it was like, well, I just want to do this. Like, I just want to do this. I don't understand why I have to, like, why I have to be grounded in such things. But now I've realized that the history of it is power, like knowing how to um, make needles, how to make your machines, how to work those things. They very much so widen the amount that you're able to give your client. And you
Yeah.
know, the, you can nerd out about it forever. And people when they realize there's so much more behind something, the depth of which, they're getting, the value of what they're getting increases. And then they're like, wow, man, I'm sitting with somebody who not only knows how to put on a tattoo, but knows how to make the needle that they're putting it on with, and all of this other aspect. And I know that, in recent years, just kind of skipping ahead, we've been investigating the pigments and things like that have been happening. A
Yeah.
recent post of yours is about the oranges.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
these are things that, once we started birthing all this stuff, as you said, there wasn't as many tattoo shops. There also wasn't as many production companies of the the tools and the things that we used. And
Yeah.
now we've kind of lost touch a little bit with the, integrity of the elements to which we use. And that's been a kind of a hardship lately.
Yeah. Yeah. For a lot of tattooers, that's the case. And then that whole scene is like splitting off and becoming its own little niche, like genre of
Yeah.
people who still make machines, who still do XYZ. So it's like when digital photography came out, like film photography didn't die. It became this separate little secluded, like um smaller like niche, within
Yeah.
photography of like, okay, those are like the fine art kids. So now there's like the people who like are more into the history and the people who still make coil machines and all that. It's just like it's still there, but yeah, for like most of us, we're not immersed in that little niche anymore. Whereas that used to be all that there was, but now it's just this little side thing, which is I also kind of like lament that fact, in the same way you just did. But it just is what it is, I guess. It's just the evolution of humans.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that people like you are kind of still influencing it and asking questions. I know that one of my friends, uh Jake Kirk, he's very interested about the pigments and about the products, and it's encouraged him to start making his own products with certain independent companies. So that's a route you can take.
Yep.
But also he's asking of these companies and kind of putting them under the hot seat and being like, hey dude, what's up, like what's going on with your pigments, what's going into them. And I think with enough people who are a big thing about all of this stuff is accountability. If people are not held accountable, they're gonna just run roughshod. And I
Yeah.
think it's great that people like you are still asking questions and still holding firm in this industry in a big way. Because those are going to be the people that keep it together.
Mhm.
It's a lot to ask, but it's
Well, yeah, I just want to give back at this point. And then now that,
yeah,
we've discussed how old I am, been tattooing for 25 years, it's like now it's time to give back. Like that's the
yeah,
phase. I
yeah,
want to try to leave it better than I found it, or just keep it from getting too crappy, to be honest.
yeah,
it's so commercialized. It's like such a different thing now. So I
yeah,
just want to try to live by my values and impart some of those values maybe to other people, because I feel like some of the good values of tattooing are getting drowned out more or getting quieter.
yeah. I mean, can you expand upon that a little bit more? Yeah.
Um, Everything's just like flashy marketing, promotion, TV, celeb status, like all that stuff. It's a very shallow pop culture phenomenon nowadays compared to what it used to be. It used to be like DIY underground artisans and craftspeople. And then when I got into it, like the real like fine art side of things came into it. So it was like DIY artists and craftspeople plus like art knowledge, which was like amazing
Right.
to have that combo. And now it feels like that's starting to be superseded or drowned out more and more by just like your like social media appearance and being flashy, or just being a celeb influencer, just all that kind of like cultural mentality, I guess, is way more prevalent in tattooing now than it used to be. And then on the like economic side of it, like all these companies like selling out to huge Chinese conglomerates, like who are just buying up companies. And so like half of tattooing now is owned by like a giant Chinese corporation, which I don't have
Yes.
anything against Chinese. I'm just saying like that's who owns it now. So it's just weird.
Okay, Apprenticeship Diary listeners, I am replacing today's advertisements with a request. I have a dear friend that is, I mean, there's no other way to put it. I, he's kind of going through a mental breakdown and he took off. We don't know what is happening with him, but he happens to be somebody that I've shouted out on the podcast a few times. He's brilliant. He does incredible services, but as it stands right now, EdenHealthMD.com has been taken down my friend John Simmons is missing. And I'll be posting regular pictures of him on my stories so that you all have a image of what he looks like. But essentially, guys, he has gone missing, and I need your help and your prayers for him to come back, and if nothing else, for God's will to be done, and for the people who are left to have to manage this state of events to do so and find peace. I'm really pulling for my friend. He's such a lovely human, and this has been a weird time. So I do want to add that he does not want to be found. It's that kind of mental crisis. So I wouldn't approach him if you see him. I would just simply call the authorities, 911, and report the sighting, because, you know, with these kind of situations, you just never know what somebody's capable of. I could never imagine my friend ever daring or deeming to hurt anyone, but just call it in if you could. That would be the safest bet for everybody. Put out prayers, put out feelers, keep your eyes peeled for John Simmons. He's got a fabulous British accent that I actually had the pleasure of recording. So if you wanted to listen to him, it's actually a really good podcast episode. And again, Nick, I'm sorry to pull some attention away from your episode. I hope you don't mind. But his are called Upstream and Downstream, John's. And that's how you can hear his voice and know what he sounded like. And I'm very blessed that I got his recording. So many things that were awesome were said. And yeah, and he's also multilingual, so he knows how to speak fluent Spanish and German. So he's a very multifaceted human, and I hope that he gets to continue to give the world those amazing gifts. So pray for John for me if you could. You know, just put a little feeler out and help convict his soul. Okay? I love you all, and I thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not diversified enough for it to have, you know, a nice competitive, you know, like stance in that way, because the competition kind of keeps things integral. But if it's all in one place, then, you know, a lot of stuff can happen. Plus, in China, I mean, I I I personally have no qualms about saying that the way that they run their workforce is very abusive, and
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
their factories, I can't imagine are a place that you know, I've gotten dresses from them, about three of them. Two out of three might fit, one definitely doesn't, and and I've tried to like work with it, and it's just that you can only expect so much from people who are being really overworked, you know, ill-treated and all of this stuff. And it's just not something that you can really hope to get a lot of quality out of, honestly. So I do feel you there. And I also really love when, you know, when you go to your website, you really talk about helping people brand themselves, and like, you know, illustrating what they want to be seen as, and, you know, kind of getting into their illustration of their concepts and really diving deep into those things. And, you know, that's the kind of gift that I think you can give when you like to do custom work, where it's not kitsch and it's not these replicated ideas, that it's like a million, you know, like you just see a million of the same thing over and over again. And I love that about how you work, because I feel that too. I probably could make more money if I, you know, did the other, but I never did it for the money. So
Yeah.
I did it because I loved it.
Yeah, I mean the era of tattooing that you and I started in was still very focused on like the customer's idea. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, how do I illustrate your idea? And then it started to turn into like I'm the artist and here's my work and you get what I want, so that's a whole other mentality, which if everyone's happy and the customer's happy with that, then great. Like I don't have a problem with it. But it's just like the era that I came up in and what I am used to is um interpreting and collaborating with the client and seeing what their idea is, and oh, okay, how can I make that happen within the parameters that they set.
Right.
um as opposed to the other way around is like me just like saying like here's the one specific hyper specialized work that I do and I will only do this, so don't bother coming to me if you don't want this exact thing,
Yeah.
which is more the norm now, and that's better for promotion and all the things I was just talking about like a minute ago. It's
Yeah.
so it's a lot harder to market yourself in today's tattoo world, um, when you're doing a variety of genres or like trying to like work with customers' ideas as opposed to just having your one like brand, your very recognizable like specialty brand that where every tattoo looks kind of the same.
Well, and I think that just to expand upon that, I think people do themselves a disservice because I belong to some boards on Facebook of tattoo boards, and I look at how people think about their clients and the common uh problems or challenges that people have with their clients, and it just amazes me because you know of course you're going to run into those issues when you've made it a very superficial thing,
Yeah.
but you get to heal yourself, I think, a little bit when you are willing to participate with a client and collaborate with them to a common end. And then I really don't feel like I run into these problems that these people do,
Mm-hmm.
where they're just like, I don't understand why they're not just willing to let me put what I want on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And that's a very like taken out of context. That sounds very odd.
Yeah. It's like, dude, are you listening to yourself? Like, is trust hard to get? Yes, very.
Yeah.
Um, um, should you feel this is a blessing and a gift that you get to have, that each bit of skin that you are honored to be put before you to work on, should you see it that way? Absolutely. I do not understand why you don't, and that might be part of your issue. Um,
Yeah.
I do think that that's happening.
Yeah. For
With
sure.
within that conversation, you said you want to give back. Have you apprenticed people, and how does your apprenticeships look if you do?
I have never had an apprentice. My level of uh expectation I'm afraid to put on somebody, and I just feel like it's like having a second, boyfriend or girlfriend basically.
Mm-hmm.
It like that relationship needs to be intense for it to really work and for this person to succeed, and then that's an emotional, mental, and time and life commitment for up to a couple years potentially, that I don't have the energy for that. So what I do have the energy for in terms of like giving back and helping and teaching is all the stuff I already do, like seminars,
Mm-hmm.
workshops, like stuff like this right here. So just trying to be like an educator in general for people who want it, rather than like in a specific like one-on-one like mentorship sense, because that's a very demanding relationship and I would be demanding of that person, and I
Right.
don't know. It would be tough.
Well, I will admit that I did listen to the Artful Dollar podcast that you did. It was really good.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, and I know that you're interested in those things. If I can, if you ever do broach the idea of doing this, because I know for myself that you would probably one of few people, Jeff Gogoi would be one, but I feel like your level of mentorship would be for a seasoned professional that would probably pay extra to get next level education and mentorship.
Yeah, I think
So,
that's where I'm at for sure.
yeah,
And I'm actually developing more of that I'm going to start to offer that on my website. And, for people who are already seasoned tattooers can sign up, and like, how do we work together for a very limited time span, not like an apprenticeship, but like,
right.
like like a workshop style thing of how do we work together to get you where you want to go.
Yeah. No, I think that's where you're at, definitely. And let me know when you do it, because I'm excited about that.
All right. All right.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that might be something I want to dive more into, because I really do love your work, and just conceptually how you put things together. And your background is so similar to mine, as far as like, um, you know, the painting background. I know the one thing that I struggled with tattooing was because when I was in painting school, they asked you to never use black or pigments right from the tube. And that was a conflict when I came into it, where they were like, oh, you got more black, more black, more black. And I
Yeah.
was like, what the hell is this? I
Yeah.
was
Well, I
never
mean,
encouraged.
yeah, it's, like each each medium has its own rules, its own things that make it successful for that medium. And so not everything crosses over. So
Yeah.
that's definitely like a big thing with tattooing, is understanding tattooing, and then if you understand painting on top of tattooing, then you can see where the Venn diagram overlaps and where it
Hmm.
doesn't overlap.
Yep.
So
Yeah. No,
that's
and that's what you taught recently at Paradise was your idea of overlapping, understandings and things like that. It helped me recently. I will let you know that I have a client with very warm skin. She's basically a freckle,
mhm.
like endlessly. And she was having a lot of problems in this tattoo that she had previously done. And I put a lot of blues over certain blacks that she had already, and it made the things that we wanted to come forward more pop out. And it
Mm.
really helped balance her skin a little bit, because everything that was blue in her skin got really dark because of that orange that was just so much in her skin. So
Yeah.
I left certain blacks alone, and then turned up the blue and certain things that I really wanted to push forward and get that black. And
Mhm.
it helped a lot. She was like, "Oh my God, you're a genius." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm just color theory."
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it was really awesome. So I'm definitely interested more and more in that, because it's very similar. My background's in hair as well, and there's a lot of hair theory that's very, very similar. Because knowing certain things about how hair lifts and how to deposit color in hair, and that kind of color theory that you're looking at when you're judging pigments and tones and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So I geek out about that. That's stuff that I really appreciated when you were coming on the scene and doing your lectures. I never took any of them, I will say. Um, because I'm a little bit more slapdash, but I think that's why I would be
Mhm.
interested now in doing more with you, is because I think that I'm a little too that way.
Uh-huh.
And maybe you should rein it in a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely more of a structured type of approach, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah. Fantastic. So let me see here. I'm going back to, so in the world of tattooing, if you were to think about it, how do you think the education of it should go? Because we're in this weird phase right now where you have people who are teaching themselves. There's lots of online courses, there's tattoo schools, there's apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Um, is there something that you see as like a vision for that?
Um, I think for me, I would rather see it be reverse engineered based on outcomes. So if any of those things you listed produces an amazing tattooer who appreciates the craft and is doing it the right way, then I it doesn't matter how they got in. If they're here and doing it the right way and being awesome, then welcome. You
Yeah.
know, if they're here and like leaving a lot to be desired, then maybe we need to go back and reassess how you got into it,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
No.
just look inside yourself and who you are and your values as a person. But I mean, for me and like my apprenticeship experience, I had a very easy, privileged apprenticeship experience. And I feel like a lot of people have nightmare apprenticeships. And so I'm sure you've heard some of those stories on your podcast, but I'm here to say like it can be a smooth, positive, amazing experience as well. Like be open to that as well. It doesn't have to be suffering a lot. So we all need to draw the line wherever it feels right for ourselves. But yeah, no, I'm very thankful and grateful for like my extremely easy, privileged, like right place, right time, like upbringing into tattooing. I feel like I was very, very fortunate, and that's not what a lot of people experience, unfortunately. But just to put out there, like it can be that way, and don't be afraid to pay for something because it holds both parties accountable. Like I
Yeah.
feel like there's a purist attitude of like, oh, like you shouldn't charge for an apprenticeship. That's bullshit, or whatever. But money is an amazing lubricator of human interactions. It holds both. It helps to hold both parties accountable, and both parties tend to take things way more seriously when money changed hands. Just because that's a cultural, you know, value of capitalism in the society we live in. It's like money makes things real, and money makes people be serious. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to pay for an apprenticeship, and hold the mentor accountable, and vice versa, and just make sure it's a smooth running relationship and interaction. Like to me, there's nothing wrong with that. So
No, I agree. Well, and it's the idea of money too. Like it's just our time. It's like a symbol for our energy and our
yes.
time and our all of that. So, I definitely agree with you. When I was going into it, the first well, not the second time, John was asking me to pay, and then because he didn't need me. That was really the case of it. He didn't need a shop lackey. He had a piercer and he had a front end person and he didn't need me. So he was going to
Mhm.
ask me to pay for it. And it was around the same amount, I think like 3,000. And it was a time period. It was like 2008 ish, around where the crash had just happened, the financial
Mm.
crash, and
Yeah.
nobody was giving out loans. Nobody was doing anything. So I was like, well, I value that. I've paid for my education a lot of different ways. But I don't got the money. So I'm just gonna have to like save up and come back to you when I do. I never stopped staying in front of him. So when it came time where his piercer got fired and his front end person left, he was like, "Hey, do you want to work for it instead?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I will totally work for free
Mhm.
and do this." But yeah, it's one of those things that it's either going to be that you pay outright and you get somebody's attention who otherwise doesn't need to give anything like that to you, or you're facilitating something for them that they would otherwise have to pay for anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like that exchange. And like I said in the beginning, it's really about what makes sense to you. And I do think you hit the nail on something very important. Know your value systems very much so before you go into this, because if you don't know your boundaries or your hard lines, I do think that that's where you will get taken advantage of. And it really doesn't matter if you go into tattooing or anything. That will be the case because you are in
Yeah.
a phase of life where that's the education that you need, is to learn your boundaries.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be fun in the tattoo
Mhm.
realm.
Oh no. Yeah, there's some goons here. So
Oh dude, it's a smattering. I still get some flavorful and colorful clients and I'm just like, wow, man, like I'm really excited to experience you. I don't think that there's any other space that I would get to experience this without having to be more involved in whatever's going on.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
But I get to be this right here and now, and this is pretty cool.
Yep. It's
um
a good serving size.
yeah, yeah. What was so you did your first tattoo was script. How
Well, no,
how
that was my first paying customer
paying
tattoo.
customer. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, yes. What was the first one? Do you remember on your friend?
It was a cartoon character actually that he had drawn, so it wasn't even my
Ah,
art. And we never even finished it. It got like halfway done, and then he just never got it finished. We were on to other
oh,
things, and went our separate ways in life eventually. So yeah, who knows what happened to that, if it's covered or if it's still there. But I started out that way, and then kind of moved to doing my own kind of like cartoony, simpler designs, and then experimented a few months in to tattooing with some realism effects, and then that just blew it wide open for me. Was like, oh, okay, like now it's starting to resemble the art I was making off of skin. And then it's just like an absolute like I don't know, just paradigm shift of like, okay, now I'm gonna try this, now I'm gonna try this, now I'm gonna try this. And so um yeah, that was awesome. And so that was like phase two of my learning really was once those mental um floodgates opened. So then it was like, okay, I've kind of outgrown this like more walk-in based kind of traditional street shop. And there was this really custom like appointment based like nationally renowned shop a few towns over. And I was like, all right, let me try to work there.
Got you. Got you. And what did you, when you made that transition over, what were some of the things that you ended up learning about that working I guess system or situation? What were things that you had to adopt?
Um, well, it was more like the custom tattoo mentality. So like just designing everything like in the most artistic way possible, like just pushing yourself as hard as you can with every tattoo, larger scale work. So all those dudes at that shop were doing like amazing large scale work. And so it was just like um learning more complex approaches to drawing, stenciling, um, workflow over multiple sessions. It's just like all of it. It's just like um, no longer just like basic like get them in, get them out kind of walk in tattooing.
How many years in were you at this point that you transitioned over to that?
I'd been tattooing I think for like 6 months honestly.
Okay, right
So
on.
first 6 months of like real professional tattooing actual clients at the first shop, and then just those floodgates open like I said, artistically, mentally, technique wise, and then
That's
so it was
awesome.
just time to make the move.
That's awesome. I was kind of asked to think about those things because I right when I started the second time, I ran into reinventing the tattoo and Paradise Tattoo gatherings and all of that stuff, you guys. So that was a concept that was kind of put in my head. So I was in the same shop for 11 years. So I never left and expanded, probably should have. But didn't. I um I found that about 3 years in was when, I was really needing to be told to like slow down and like separate things. It's a hard thing to like, I think get past this mentality of the finished work, like like there's just a want to get it, resolved in a lot of ways. And like
Yeah.
once you realize that the best tattoos really take a lot of time, a lot of saturation, they just do. There's no way around it. And then transitioning into that mindset of like, if we're going after the best here, and that's what I'm hoping to deliver to you, and that's what you're asking for, this is what you're going to have to do. That's like a next level sales kind of pitch, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I think my for many tattooers and absolutely for me, it's a battle with impatience,
Mm-hmm.
or like put in a more positive way, it's learning patience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, totally. Totally. And just kind of well, and hooking your client onto it too. I think that that's
Yeah, getting them to be patient.
yeah, because I think that's more it for me. It's like I'm very codependent with people, and I'm a people pleaser. I know I'm not alone. But like
Mhm.
having to sit there and being like, I know that this is taking forever, but there's reason here, and I'm not going too slow. I assure you, like this is as fast as it can get in your skin.
Yeah,
Like, or at least that I can put it in your skin. I would never intentionally slow this down.
right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um, Okay, well, I guess, we're running into like an hour of talking to you here. Your time is very valuable. So I guess what are a few people that you really admire in the industry, I guess, and that have really inspired you along the way that you can shout out? Because I think it's, people often feel like, that
they're the people that they admire, like, oh, they're like, oh, and I'm sure you have people that you really look up to.
Yeah, my whole career, and people would probably guess this or already know it. Guy Aitchison has been a
Mhm.
massive influence, inspiration, collaborator, and now I pretty sure I could call him a friend.
Mhm.
Um, so just from day one, I mean, he put out reinventing the tattoo like a year or two into my career, and that was that was massive. That was another huge paradigm shift. It was just like one thing after another just lined up for me perfectly to where I was just like accelerating at a faster and faster pace when I was early on in my career. So him for sure, his work ethic is insane. And he still has a very down to earth approach, even though he's like, one of the OG like tattoo gods at this point. He's still just like a chill dude, and he does his best to give back and do a lot for the tattoo industry still. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. So I've always looked up to him and learned a lot from him over the years. And my buddy Jeff Ensminger here in Austin, we kind of came up together. I moved to Texas from Connecticut to live with him and work with him because we were buddies, and we got a place together and started tattooing and whatnot. So he's always been a cool like friend to bounce ideas off of, and just yeah. So he's super cool. And my co-owner of Art Realm Tattoo, Andrew Matella, is just a real cool dude. He does some realism work, and he's been a really cool business partner to own a business with, and so we kind of vibe well together on that level, and just try to run it more like a co-op style thing where it's like a group of artists who all like work in a shared studio space. It's not like a super top down approach. It's just like we all rent and share this space together and just come and go as we please, and just try to make a nice like quiet working environment for people to just really focus in on their art and on their clients.
That's
So
really cool. And I'm
yeah.
sorry I didn't ask more about that because I do have interest in that. How did that come about? Um, you know.
Andrew started Art Realm Tattoo in 2013 or 14. So yeah, it's been around for 10 years now, but I bought into the business, became a co-owner in 2018.
I
He
gotcha.
was looking to expand, bring in fresh energy, and like make it bigger and better than he had made it. And so I was looking to get into an ownership position, and didn't want to honestly do all the work and hassle of starting my own shop from scratch. He was already doing things the way I would have done them anyway. I
Mm-hmm.
had been teaching painting workshops at his shop. He was hosting me for workshops. So I was like, man, we should just like partner up. So that's how
Yeah.
that started.
I love that.
Yeah. And so it's like your typical booth rental setup with our artists, with our resident artists. So we don't do percentages. We do booth rentals. And so that makes it more of like a co-op kind of shared studio space vibe where we
Mhm.
all each like have our space. And yeah, so it's more of like an appointment only type of like custom art studio vibe.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I do think that uh it's I guess as long as people have a sincere dedication and passion, you can see that in them about what they do and how they do it, and you can bring people together that have a lot of shared integrity about how they want to work and how they want to operate. That's a really cool thing. It's kind of, I mean, to be honest with you, it's a lot of what I'm wanting myself. I keep asking for because I'm where you were in 2018 right now, of like wanting to do like an ownership position kind of thing, but not really wanting to do it all myself just because I don't like the idea of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the collaboration. I don't assume I know everything. It's hard for me to, everybody thinks they're right when they're when they bring up an idea. You think you are, but I like the pushback of other people, and I like expanding ideas and concepts, and bouncing off of different people. And I love that vibe, even though it's, more challenging at times because everybody's their own entity.
Yeah, but it's less challenging in a lot of ways because you're not a babysitter. You're not like trying to herd cats, it's
Yes.
just, which is what tattooers are. It's like herding cats. We're all our own little unique special snowflakes on our own on our own special trip through life. So trying to
Yeah.
like get, trying to like control and wrangle everyone in like a typical shop structure gets exhausting, and that becomes a full-time job, not the tattooing. So I
Absolutely.
always was an artist and a tattooer before I was a businessman or an entrepreneur. So um, the shop setup we have keeps the focus on the actual tattooing. We don't have to wrangle people, babysit them. Um,
I
so I
love it.
mean, it has its pros and cons. So
Right on. Right on. Um, I love that. I'll pray that I get a very similar thing in the future. I would like that. But that's really, really cool. I really like that, that you guys, came together that way, and, that it's worked out really well. I will say I was kind of stalking it a little bit and looking at the studio, and I always am late to following everybody. So I followed
oh yeah,
Art Realm afterwards, the social media part of it. I'm so bad. So
yeah,
I'm now following everyone.
nice.
Um, so I hope you're not getting blinded by this. There's like an extreme light hitting my hair that I'm
Yeah.
trying to block. Um, but so those are what's next. I mean, you've already said a few things. You're trying to develop a you co-own a studio. You do seminars and travel and all of that. I do know that you're, investing in more time, learning about how to cultivate, uh, money and, learn about those things in a way that can keep expanding, you in a really great way, which is, like just kind of understanding that it's about what you can give back in the end. So I know that's really awesome. Um, but what's on the horizons, Nick?
Horizon, yeah, is just trying to develop like a mentorship kind of workshop thing that I mentioned earlier, where I'm going to offer like one-on-one, um, like kind of workshop style mentorship, not like apprenticeships, like a master class kind of thing
Yeah,
where we take a day or 2 days or 3 days and kind of dive into like what this person needs to learn to get past whatever plateau they're on. So it could be artistic, it could be technique, tattooing wise. So I'm trying to just develop a sort of curriculum or structure for that and hopefully offer that soon on my website. Other than that, I mean, it's just like more of the same, like I'm trying to paint. I'm always trying to create. I'm trying to make awesome tattoos for people.
right on.
Um, I'm doing more work with the Artful Dollar, like you said, Ryan
Hmm.
Roy's project. That's dedicated to teaching tattooers and freelancers, how to manage their finances better and how to structure their businesses for future success. So
I love
yeah,
that
that's
that's
pretty
out
much
there.
it.
Honestly, that's a passion of mine
Oh yeah,
too.
no, that's super needed. I mean,
Yeah, we're good at making money. We're not really good with money.
yeah, exactly. It's
That's
kind
a
of like the
Jeff
tattooer
Gogwe.
mentality I was saying before.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a Jeff Gogwe quote on one of his seminars. He was like, I determined that I'm not really good with money, but I'm going to be good at making it.
Yeah,
And along the way, if you can figure out how to, be good with it, that's always good. Because we get old, and it's, we don't have the stamina physically that we used to, so it's important.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you gotta, how do you want to retire? Do you want to retire? I mean, that
Those are
starts to be a
questions.
thought as you get older. So
Absolutely.
that takes planning. It takes a strategy. So
Hmm.
I like, I'm on that journey myself, doing that for me, and so also trying to help others.
Yeah. No, I think it's wonderful. And I'm really excited for that podcast. I'll admit I was a little bit of a stalking of you prior to this conversation, that I found his podcast and didn't know about it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so great. And this is a
Yeah,
conversation that definitely needs to be had. in our community and with artists in general. So I'm very happy that he's broaching that topic because it needs to be spoken. And I've never really understood why it was not.
Yeah.
But that was something that I loved about Paradise too, is that, the conversation of money and kind of taking away our feelings, our prejudice against money and our relationship with that, and kind of, fixing that a little bit. Because,
Hmm.
sometimes we have these preconceived notions and it's really not based in anything real. It's just based in our attitude about it.
Yeah, it's usually based in some kind of childhood trauma,
Mm-hmm.
to be quite honest. But
Yep.
it's just an energy flow, like anything else. Like money's an energy flow. It flows in, it flows out.
Yep.
So try to harness that. Try
Make it
to
work for you.
yeah, exactly. Try to make it work for you. So yeah,
Yeah. No, and
that's all
I'm
stuff I'm
excited to
doing.
see what you do with it, because you're a very integral person. You have a lot of passion towards art, but also animals and people in general. So I'm excited for that, because the more people like you that are uh at the helm of a lot of these things, I think that some heart will come back, which is good. Very,
Yeah,
very good.
definitely.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course, of course. I was gonna say, in terms of Guy Aitchison, a thing that I love about you and him is that you have a lot of passion to creating your own references, and that is something that I think as an art kid, uh, we kind of learned, was that like not taking stock images or pre-planned photos and stuff, like making our own photos. And something that I learned about you very early was that you watch decomposition of animals and things like that,
Mhm.
which I think is really cool, because it's I mean, I don't know, for me it was like a conflict with like that beautiful gore and things like that, and you see that a lot in your paintings. And you keep them like there to analyze and kind of watch and take photos. And Guy Aitchison builds these big weird, you know I don't know, they're like texture based sculptures that he can take pictures of, or he'll go out in nature. And both of you source nature so much. I
Yeah,
would
it's just a fascination with life, you know. Like
Yeah.
obviously part of life is death and the dying process, but really it's just a fascination with life, with
Mm-hmm.
existence. So
Yeah.
and just trying to mine that for materials, for raw inspiration materials.
Yep. Well, yeah, and that's one thing that I think, for both of you, is a huge inspiration, is that you nature and all its facets, and how it paints a picture, and how you can, like, pay homage to that and give back to that and analyze it. Really, really cool. And you teach plein air courses, so that's really awesome.
Yep, yeah, landscape painting in nature on location. So yeah, so those workshops, I do one-on-one kind of classes with that as well. That's on my website currently. That and still life oil painting. So
Mhm.
people could go on my website, navigate to the store area, and then see what kind of workshops I'm currently offering, and they can just book time with me, like it's just a one-on-one class.
It's
So
fantastic. I love it. And just one more question before, we wrap up and all of that, and I'll let you to your day. Um, when you picture these courses, do you see them being tangibly in person? Like, people come out, they take the time to be with you in that space, or do you see these
yes,
being okay, good.
yeah, no, these are definitely in-person workshops for sure. That's where the best learning occurs.
I couldn't agree more. Awesome. Well, Nick, how can people best reach out to you? You said your website, if it comes down to a one-on-one, but in terms of tattooing, is it the same? Go to your website.
Yeah, website nickbaxter.com. And then my Instagram is burning x hope. People can DM me on there. I'm usually pretty good with replying to most of those, but I usually refer everything through DM. Like eventually I just try to get it to email because that's way easier
Yeah.
for me to keep track of than DMs. But yeah, people can just email me through the website or message me on Instagram, and we can figure it out.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so very much for being on here with us. I give a shit now.
Well, thank you for doing this. This is an amazing idea. It's really cool. And I think it's with all the people getting into tattooing these days, and it's just becoming bigger than ever with so many new tattooers. You know, this is a valuable resource. People need to, you know, learn about the apprenticeship process and see what others have gone through, and just try to progress.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And you know, I thank you for that. I agree. And I mean, part of my learning has always been about listening to other people's stories and kind of siphoning from there what feels good for me. So
Yeah.
I've always wanted to provide that for others, because my experience was grassroots, like learning from you guys, like going to conventions and seminars and kind of absorbing from that. And I do feel like that is one of the best ways to learn, especially for this job where there's just so many atmospheres to which you tattoo. I mean, you have the convention circuit, you have guest spots, you have, you know, local shops, you have the private studios. Like, I don't know if there's any one way to teach it, but I think that if you can hear about these things and kind of really decide what is right for you, you know, kind of before you're in it, because it takes you once you get started, and it's kind of obsession.
Yeah.
And it can take a lot. And I want to give people, because you know, nowadays you don't even have to be a tattoo artist if you're in art. I mean, there's lots of things that you can do aside from this, but if you do this, I do think that you've got to love it, and you should love it very much.
Yeah,
And
definitely. The values need to be in the right place. So
yeah,
I appreciate that about what you know what you're doing. You're putting forth the right, you know, the best values.
oh, thank you. I'm trying, man. Like, I'm trying. Keep praying for me if that's good vibes, whatever your you know, whatever your spiritual convictions are there. But just I'll do the same for you as well, and I'll look out for the things that are ahead, because you're definitely somebody that I respect highly in this industry. You've earned it.
Thanks. Appreciate that very much. Thanks for
Yeah,
having
man.
me.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, you too.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Well, there you have it, folks. That's Nick Baxter's beginning. And Nick, I really can't thank you enough. I really hope that personally, I want to get a Texas vibe. Like, that's the first thing. I really do, you know, not to take away from you again, but like, I do want to experience Texas. It's kind of a neat place from what I've understood. And that would be equally awesome, if not more awesome. Just going, it would be more awesome if I went and I did a one-on-one with you, and I would enjoy that thoroughly. But yeah, there you have it, guys. That's the grassroots punk rock passion that you got to have in order to keep pushing. And for whatever it might seem from the outside, I hope everybody understands that there is such a sincere, burning heart behind all that we do. And we are very dedicated professionals. And yeah, Nick's one of those guys that you can't walk away not respecting. I know that's a double negative, but you know what I mean. Diary listeners, thank you so much. God bless you all, and thank you so much for your time listening here. Pray for us. Pray for everything. You know, like, you know, give gratitude, show up, all of it. Have a powerful week.
Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is the_apprenticeship_diary. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.